Chapter 1401. The gap was too big. In the continent of God, Lu Ming could injure a 4th-level martial emperor when he used the chaotic sky seal. In this place, Lu Ming was no match for the 2 burly men in the early stage of the 3rd-level martial emperor, let alone the 4th-level martial emperor. Moreover, they were ordinary martial emperors. What if he met a genius? How strong would he be? It seems that I was a frog in a well when I was trapped in this corner of the continent of God. Lu Ming clenched his fists. While feeling the strong pressure, Lu Ming was full of anticipation. His blood was boiling with excitement. Yuan continent was the real big stage. It was colorful, and it was far from what the continent of God could compare to. On the fighting ring, the two exchanged hundreds of moves. In the end, both of them were injured and left the place. However, after the two left, 2 more people went up to fight. After that, Lu Ming watched 5 battles, all of which were between emperors. As expected, most of the emperors here were much stronger than the emperors in the continent of God. Lu Ming more or less had an idea. After that, Lu Ming, Qiu Yingying, and the others returned to their residence. After returning to his residence, Lu Ming first poured the life water on his second body. As expected, his second body glowed and its recovery speed greatly increased. Then, Lu Ming continued to cultivate. In Yuanlu, the cultivation level below the martial emperor was too low. Only by breaking through to the emperor realm as soon as possible could he gain a foothold. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been in Dragon God Valley for a month. During this period, Lu Ming would occasionally go out and buy some books to read. They were all about Yuanlu. As he had just arrived, he naturally had to understand the world he was in. On this day, there were suddenly sounds of drums outside. It was the sound of drums. Someone was summoning them. Lu Ming ended his cultivation and walked out of the cave. He saw Long Yuanchuan standing in the valley. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Youths flew out from the various ice caves and stood in the valley. There were more than 1,000 of them. Lu Ming discovered that some of the youths who had come with him were progressing very quickly. Some of them were originally at the 8th level of the Spirit God realm, but now they had broken through and reached the 9th level of the Spirit God realm, or even the Great Circle of the Spirit God realm. These people were the top geniuses of the Master Teacher continent, and there was no way they would be lacking in terms of talent. As such, they were able to advance their cultivation by leaps and bounds. All right, you newcomers have already been here for a month. You should have gotten used to it. Now, there are still 3 months before your assessment. Now, I will explain in detail your assessment mission in 3 months. In 3 months, your assessment mission will be to explore a secret realm. Long Yuanchuan said. Explore a secret realm? Lu Ming and the others were all stunned. That's right. Only by walking out of the dungeon alive can one be considered to have passed the test and become an official disciple of the Divine Dragon Valley. Long Yuanchuan said. Many people's faces changed. It seemed that the secret realm was quite dangerous. Long Yuanchuan seemed to have seen through everyone's thoughts. He smiled and said, although this secret realm is dangerous, let me tell you, it is also a great opportunity. I don't know how many martial emperors and even sages want to enter, but they can't. Because this secret realm is a great emperor's secret realm. When he said the last sentence, Long Yuanchuan deliberately emphasized his voice. What? Great emperor's secret realm? Great emperor? Everyone, including Lu Ming, was stunned. They could not help but widen their eyes. Great emperor's secret realm? Could it be a secret realm left behind by a great emperor? A great emperor was a top expert in the primordial realm, an existence that dominated the world and ruled the sky. What kind of treasures would there be in a secret realm left behind by such a person? Everyone's eyes were burning with excitement. Even sages were out of their reach, let alone great emperors who were above sages. This is the first time that this great emperor's secret realm has been discovered. After investigation, only people below martial emperors can enter. Those above martial emperors are not allowed to enter. Even sages are not allowed to enter. Therefore, you must make good use of this time and raise your cultivation to the martial emperor level. According to the sages, martial emperors and above are not allowed to enter the great emperor's secret realm. However, it is not a problem for you to break through after entering. Therefore, If some martial emperors enter the Great Emperor's secret realm to break through to the martial emperor level, they will be able to seize the opportunity and obtain the treasures. Also, this time, all the top forces in the Tsang state will send people in. This is the danger. Therefore, in the next 3 months, try to raise your strength as much as possible. You must grasp the opportunity yourself. Long Yuanchuan continued to explain. I see. After hearing this, Lu Ming finally had some answers to some of the doubts in his heart. Lu Ming finally knew why the Divine Dragon Valley, Heavenly Deity Sect, and other sects would travel a great distance to the Divine Ruins continent to select disciples. It turned out that it was all because of the Great Emperor's secret realm. They recruited geniuses from various continents to enter the Great Emperor's secret realm. The Yuanlu was divided into many large states. The Tsang state was a large state in the south of the Yuanlu. The Divine Dragon Valley was a powerful force in the Tsang state. There were countless large and small forces in the Tsang state. However, there were a total of 13 top forces that stood at the peak of the Tsang state. These 13 forces were the overlords of the Tsang state. The Divine Dragon Valley was one of the 13 forces. In addition, the Heavenly Deity Sect, Heavenly Universe Demon Sect, Nine Heaven Sword Sect, and even the Heavenly King Hall that had caused chaos in the Divine Wilderness continent because of a Heavenly King token were also one of the 13 major forces. This time, these major forces would send people into the Great Emperor's secret realm. Therefore, these major forces would send people to the small continents overseas to recruit disciples. The D clan is not in the Tsang state. I wonder where they are. Lu Ming thought to himself. The Yuanlu was too vast, and the Tsang state was only a small part of it. The books that Lu Ming had bought mostly introduced the Tsang state. Lu Ming was not too sure about the places outside the Tsang state. After the announcement, Long Yuanchuan left the place. However, these youths could not calm down. After that, they returned to their cave residences and cultivated in seclusion. It was obvious that they could break through to the monarch realm after entering the Great Emperor's secret realm. Therefore, if they raised their cultivation to the limit of the Supreme Being realm and broke through to the Emperor realm after entering the Great Emperor's secret realm, they would have an absolute advantage. Lu Ming began to place more of his attention on the embryonic form of the chaotic domain. Now, the embryonic form of the chaotic domain was getting closer and closer to its limit. As long as the embryonic form of the chaotic domain was cultivated to its limit, he would be able to break through to the Emperor realm. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. Dong, dong, dong. On this day, there was an intense rumble outside. It was the sound of a drum being struck. It was the sound of the drum being summoned again. However, wasn't there a gathering 3 days ago to announce the Great Emperor's secret realm? Why was there a gathering now? With doubts, Lu Ming walked out of the cave residence. Outside the cave residence, 3 youths stood proudly. Chapter 1402. When the crowd gathered in the valley, they looked at the 3 young men in surprise. Just now, these 3 young men had sounded the drum. Why did the 3 of them sound the drum and gather the crowd? Everyone is here, right? One of the young men swept his gaze across the crowd and said plainly. No one made a sound. All right, I believe all of you have heard the news a few days ago. In 3 months, we will be entering the Great Emperor's mystic realm. The young man continued speaking with a smirk. Let me tell you, this is the good fortune that you have accumulated over several lifetimes. If it wasn't for this reason, all of you would never be able to join the Dragon God Valley, much less enter the Great Emperor's mystic realm. Therefore, you have to seize this opportunity. Do you understand? The young man's voice reverberated throughout the valley. However, everyone could hear the strong disdain in his voice. It was like a prince looking down on a group of beggars. Many people frowned but did not make a sound. From their tone, these people should be locals. They weren't from a continent outside the Yuan continent like them. Since they were from the Yuan continent, no one knew if they were related to the upper echelons of the Dragon God Valley. Therefore, no one refuted the young man. All right, let's get down to business. The person in front of you is the peerless genius of the Dragon God Valley, young Master Yin Feng. Aren't you going to greet him? The young man continued speaking as he pointed at the young man in the middle. Among the 3 young men, The one in the middle was the leader. He looked to be in his early 20s. He wore a silver robe and his face was cold and arrogant. He looked at Lu Ming and the rest with disdain. "Greetings, young Master Yin Feng." A few people cupped their fists. What kind of attitude is this? Let me tell you, young Master Yin Feng will be entering the great Emperor's mystic realm as well. Now, I will give you a chance to submit to young Master Yin Feng and become his subordinates. After entering the great Emperor's mystic realm, you will be under young Master Yin Feng's command. In the future, young Master Yin Feng will take care of you when you are in the Dragon God Valley. The young man's words finally exposed their true intentions. They wanted Lu Ming and the rest to submit to young Master Yin Feng and become his subordinates. Lu Ming sneered. The great Emperor mystic realm was filled with opportunities. Naturally, outsiders like them wouldn't be the only ones to enter. The local elites of the Yuanlu's great sects would definitely enter as well. Yin Feng and the other two seemed to have a cultivation of the martial highness realm. They would definitely enter the trial too. They had a good idea. Now that they had recruited Lu Ming and the others, when they entered the great Emperor mystic realm, they could make use of them to gain benefits for themselves. This was something that the crowd present could easily figure out with just a little thought. "I'm sorry, but I'm used to being alone. I have no intention of becoming someone's subordinate. Goodbye." A bald young man said coldly before heading back to his cave. Whoosh! With a flicker, the young man who had spoken earlier appeared before the bald young man. "Are you going to refuse?" The native youth said coldly. "I don't have the habit of being other people's dog." The bald youth sneered, implying that the other party was merely a dog of Yin Feng. "You're courting death." The native youth's face turned gloomy and cold murderous intent was emitted. "A lowly ant from a desolate island. It's already your fortune to be able to join the divine Dragon Valley. You don't know how to be grateful and you dare to be arrogant in front of me, Yin Feizhong. It seems that if I don't teach you a lesson, you will forget who you are." The native youth was called Yin Feizhong, and he emitted a powerful aura. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" The bald young man also emitted his aura, which was also at the martial highness realm. These youths were all peak existences in their respective continents. They were invincible among their peers, and they looked down on others. All of them were proud and arrogant. How could they be willing to become someone's subordinate? Similarly, Yin Feizhang's cultivation was also at the martial highness realm. Why would he be afraid of someone of the same level? Then I'll let you know how weak you desolate island trash are. Attack. I'll give you 3 moves. Yin Feizhong said coldly. "Why do I need you to give me a handicap? I'll defeat you in 10 moves." The bald young man shouted. He was also a proud person. Wong. A yellow halo emitted from the bald young man's body. It was the embryonic form of his domain. The embryonic form of his domain shrouded Yin Feizhong. Insignificant skill. Since you're overestimating yourself, I'll fulfill your wish. Yin Feizhong took a step forward, and the embryonic form of his domain also emitted from his body. The 2 embryonic forms of their domains met in the air. But an unexpected scene occurred. The moment the 2 embryonic forms of their domains met, the bald young man's embryonic form of his domain instantly collapsed. The bald young man's face changed, and he took a few steps back. Shua. At this moment, Yin Feizhong moved. In an instant, he appeared in front of the bald young man and sent a palm strike towards him. The bald young man's face turned grave. He exhaled and sent out a palm strike. Bam! When the 2 palms met, the bald young man's face changed. His body was pushed back and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "You? How could this be?" The bald young man looked at Yin Feizhong in disbelief. They were both at the martial highness realm, but he couldn't even withstand one move and was defeated. How was this possible? His self-confidence had suffered a severe blow. Many of the other youths were shocked. It wasn't that the bald young man wasn't strong, but Yin Feizhong was too strong. Domain martial technique. Lu Ming said a few words. He possessed part of 9 dragons' memories, and his knowledge was extraordinary. He could tell at a glance that Yin Feizhong had used a domain martial technique. A domain martial technique could unleash the full power of a domain. Furthermore, a domain martial technique was very precious. Even in the major sects of Yuanlu, not everyone could cultivate it. Intent realm martial techniques existed in some small continents, but it was impossible for those small continents to have domain martial techniques. Just now, Yin Feizhong had used a domain martial technique to defeat the bald young man. Now do you know how much of a trash you are? Do you really think you're an elite? Let me tell you, the reason why Dragon God Valley gathered you here is not because of how strong you are, but because your cultivation is too weak. In the Divine Dragon Valley, there are many geniuses who are already martial monarchs. They cannot enter the great emperor's mystic realm. There are too few people below martial monarchs. That is why they came to your remote villages to gather you here. Yin Feizhong said coldly. Many people were shocked. Dragon God Valley had recruited them as disciples not because of how strong they were or how talented they were, but because Dragon God Valley didn't have that many geniuses with weak cultivation. This was a great insult to the top geniuses of the various continents, especially the bald young man. His face was ashen. If any of you don't agree, I don't mind crippling him or throwing him out. Anyway, you aren't the only disciples recruited from overseas. It won't hurt to cripple a few of you. Chapter 1403. Everyone's expression made Silver Flying Zhang's cold expression even more arrogant. He scanned the crowd and spoke again. If there's anyone else among you that would like to have a taste of my strength, feel free to step forward. I'll let you know how useless you are. Everyone looked at each other, and no one stepped out. Silver Flying Zhang was too strong, and no one had the confidence to win. Let me learn from you. A moment later, a young man in a yellow robe stepped forward. Good. You have guts. Then I will teach you a lesson. Silver Flying Zhang looked at the youth in the yellow robe, and a sharp cold light flashed. The crowd retreated and made a large space. Silver Flying Zhang and the youth in the yellow robe stood opposite each other. Roar! The youth in the yellow robe didn't hide his strength. A dragon roar resounded throughout the valley, and a yellow dragon appeared above his head. 9 golden chakras shone. This was the youth's bloodline. The youth in the yellow robe directly used bloodline fusion. Wong. Then, a mountain peak appeared above the yellow dragon's head and emitted a strong pressure. An emperor-rank spiritual weapon. Hee. So it's an emperor-rank spiritual weapon. Do you think it's useful just because you have an emperor-rank spiritual weapon? How naive. Silver Flying Zhang sneered. Swish. Then, his figure flashed and emitted a green radiance as he pounced towards the yellow dragon. Roar. The yellow dragon let out a dragon roar, and its dragon claws stepped on the air as it pounced towards Silver Flying Zhang. At the same time, the mountain peak enlarged rapidly and suppressed Silver Flying Zhang. Swish. 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 Yin Feizhong's figure flickered. His figures suddenly multiplied into 18. Each figure waved their hand, and a green chain flew towards the yellow dragon. The 18 chains were extremely fast. In an instant, they wrapped around the yellow dragon's body, binding it tightly. Roar! The yellow dragon struggled with all its might and roared continuously. However, the green chain was indestructible and couldn't break free. Suppress. The yellow dragon roared and used the mountain-shaped emperor-rank spiritual weapon to suppress Silver Flying Zhang. Skywind Divine Technique. Silver Flying Zhang sneered as his green domain spread out and turned into a huge palm print that blasted towards the mountain peak. Dong! A thunderous explosion rang out. The cyan palm imprint was destroyed, but the mountain peak was also sent flying back. The emperor-ranked spirit weapon was sent flying by Silver Flying Zhang's bare hands. What a powerful domain martial technique! Lu Ming, who was in the crowd, could clearly see that the Silver Flying Octopus had been using a domain martial technique since the beginning. It was a type of domain martial technique that had a myriad of transformations. It brought out the power of the Silver Flying Octopus's wind domain to the extreme. It was extremely mysterious, and its power was shocking. When the yellow-robed youth used bloodline fusion and combined it with the Emperor Spirit weapon, his battle prowess was definitely strong. In the continent of godly ruins, the yellow-robed young man would be able to defeat a martial emperor. He might even be slightly stronger than a first-layer martial emperor. However, he was still no match for Silver Flying Zhang, which showed how strong Silver Flying Zhang was. Then, Silver Flying Zhang's body flashed and appeared on top of the dragon's head. He slammed his palm down on the dragon's head. Roar! The earthen yellow true dragon let out a wail before exploding, revealing the yellow-robed young man's body. Silver Flying Zhang stepped on the yellow-robed young man's face, causing the yellow-robed young man to crash into the ground, creating a large crater. Imph! You want to go against me with such weak battle prowess? You're courting death. Silver Flying Zhang snorted coldly as he exerted force on the yellow-robed young man's face. The yellow-robed young man screamed miserably as he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Many people were indignant. On the side, Yin Feng and another young man looked on coldly as if they were looking at Silver Flying Zhang stepping on a chick. Is there anyone else who wants to fight with me? Come out. Silver Flying Zhang said loudly. No one said anything. Since no one said anything, I'll take it that you've agreed to side with young Master Yin Feng. All right, let's sign the blood oath contract now. A scroll appeared in Silver Flying Zhang's hand. When he opened it, it was filled with inscriptions. What? You want us to sign the blood oath contract? No, we can't sign the blood oath contract. If we sign the blood oath contract, we'll really become your slaves and be controlled by you. Instantly, the scene was in an uproar as many people shouted. The blood oath contract was unique to Yuan continent. Once it was signed, it was equivalent to swearing a blood oath and it couldn't be violated. In that case, wouldn't they have to be controlled by Yin Feng for the rest of their lives? How could these proud and ambitious sky prides who came from different continents accept this? What's with the noise? Let me tell you, you have to sign it today even if you don't want to. Moreover, this blood oath contract isn't for life. It's only limited to the exploration phase of the secret territory. Do you understand? Silver Flying Zhang spoke. But the crowd was still angry and no one would sign it. What a bunch of idiots. Silver Flying Zhang started to lose his patience as he berated. Do you think you're sky prides? Let me tell you, in Yuan continent, you're nothing. You're just a bunch of trash. If you don't side with young Master Yin Feng, I guarantee that you won't have a good life in the future. Yuan continent is filled with danger and ferocious beasts. I guarantee that you won't even know how you died. If young Master Yin Feng protects you, you'll have a good cultivation environment. This was a blatant threat. However, these words were indeed powerful and made many young men hesitate. That's right. Yuan continent was filled with experts. While there were opportunities, the danger level was also extremely high. They couldn't stay in Dragon God Valley and cultivate for the rest of their lives. They needed to go out and train. If Yin Feng did something to them, they would be in danger. Moreover, in a large sect like Dragon God Valley, it was indeed better to have a backer than to cultivate alone. Some young men started to be tempted. All right, I'll sign it. Me too. Finally, someone spoke and agreed to sign the blood oath contract. A smile appeared on Silver Flying Zhang's face as he said, That's more like it. Come up and sign it. More than 10 young men walked up and signed their names on the blood oath contract with their own blood. The young man in the yellow robe at Silver Flying Zhang's feet also signed the contract obediently. What about you guys? Silver Flying Zhang held the blood oath contract and walked to the front of the young women. He looked at them coldly. The young women's expressions changed. In the end, they clenched their teeth and signed the contract. You guys? Then, Silver Flying Zhang held the contract and looked at the others. People had to lower their heads when they were under someone else's roof. Those few people also clenched their teeth and signed the contract. Soon, about 50 people signed the blood oath contract. We won't sign it. All of a sudden, a deep voice sounded. Everyone looked over and saw that the one who spoke was an honest young man. Beside him, there were 2 people who looked exactly the same as this young man. Chapter 1404. You're not signing? The smile on Silver Flying Zhang's face disappeared and was replaced by a stern expression. Yes, we're not signing. We, the 3 Ruan brothers, will not be manipulated by anyone. One of the triplets said. Silver Flying Zhang laughed coldly and said, It seems that if I don't cripple a few of you today, you will think that I won't be ruthless. After saying this, A green radiance emitted from Silver Flying Zhang's body, and a cold killing intent was emitted. The triplets gathered together and looked at the Silver Flying badge cautiously. Shua. Silver Flying Zhang immediately attacked. A green palm print flew towards the dantian of one of the triplets. Boom. The triplets shouted at the same time. Their auras were connected and merged seamlessly. Their auras also increased rapidly. One of the triplets punched out and clashed with Silver Flying Zhang's palm. With an explosion, Silver Flying Zhang's body trembled and flew backwards. The triplets also took a few steps back. Not bad. Silver Flying Zhang's face turned cold. He did not expect that the triplets could combine their auras and resist his domain martial technique. Kill! Silver Flying Zhang shouted and attacked the triplets again. However, the triplets stood together and their auras merged. They exchanged a few blows with Silver Flying Zhang, but the result was the same. They were evenly matched. Silver Flying Zhang could not defeat the triplets. Many people's eyes lit up. Although the local geniuses of the Yuan continent were powerful and had cultivated domain martial techniques, there were too many continents in the Yuan continent. However, there were too many continents outside the Yuan continent. There would always be some unimaginable prodigies who could fight against the native prodigies. As long as they could resist the local geniuses, they would not need to sign the blood oath contract. After exchanging more than 10 blows, Silver Flying Zhang was still unable to defeat the triplets. His face turned cold. Shua. A silver hook appeared in Silver Flying Zhang's hand. The silver hook was covered with barbs and looked extremely dangerous. Emperor-level spiritual weapon. Silver Flying Zhang finally used his Emperor-level spiritual weapon. The triplets' faces changed slightly. A shield appeared in their hands at the same time. 3 shields that were exactly the same. Furthermore, they were all spirit weapons at the Emperor level. Shua. Whoosh. The silver hook in Silver Flying Zhang's hand swept towards the triplets, but one of them blocked in front of him with a shield. Clang. The silver hook swept across the shield, but the shield didn't move an inch. Clang. Clang. The silver hook in Silver Flying Zhang's hand swept out like lightning, instantly sweeping out hundreds of ripples. Even the space had a slight ripple. One should know that this was the Yuan continent, where the space was extremely stable. It was extremely difficult to break open the space. The fact that a ripple appeared in the space showed how terrifying the power was. However, as the silver hooks continued to sweep the shields, the triplets remained as steady as Mount Tai, unable to move them at all. In the end, Silver Flying Octopus used bloodline fusion, but was still unable to break through the defense of the triplets. These 3 brothers are interesting. Lu Ming smiled. Done. At this moment, a cold voice rang out, causing Silver Flying Zhang's heart to tremble. He retracted his bloodline and turned back into his human form with an ugly expression. The one who spoke was Yin Feng. What a piece of trash. You can't even take care of a few ants from a barbaric island. Yin Feng placed his hands behind his back and took a step forward, berating coldly. Silver Flying Zhang's expression changed drastically as he glared at the triplets. He lowered his head and retreated to the side, not even daring to let out a fart. Are you going to surrender and sign the blood oath contract obediently, or do you want me to do it personally? Yin Feng looked at the triplets. The 3 of us will not sign the contract. We will not be manipulated by others. At most, we will die. One of the triplets said while the other 2 nodded their heads. Since you want to die, I shall grant your wish. Yin Feng's expression turned cold. His body emitted a layer of silver radiance as his muscles bulged slightly. At the same time, a layer of silver territory spread out. Boom. Yin Feng suddenly attacked. His fist glowed with silver radiance as he threw a punch towards the triplets. In the air, there was a dull explosion. Block it. One of the triplets shouted. Dong. Yin Feng's silver fist landed on the shield, causing it to vibrate violently. The triplets had a drastic change in expression as they retreated continuously. The 3 of them retreated over a dozen steps before they could stabilize themselves. So strong? The crowd looked at Yin Feng in shock and disbelief. The strength that Silver Flying Octopus had displayed was already strong enough. Ordinary geniuses of the same level could not even take a single blow from him. However, the triplets were able to withstand Silver Flying Octopus's attack. But now, the triplets were forced to retreat over a dozen steps by Yin Feng's punch. This is a spiritual body? An innate spiritual body. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Yin Feng's physical body was actually a spiritual body. Yin Feng had not broken through to the Emperor realm and was only a martial saint. Therefore, his spiritual body could only be an innate spiritual body. Lu Ming thought of Dician from the D clan. He also had an innate spiritual body and his combat strength was shocking. Moreover, once an innate spiritual body reached the martial Emperor realm, it could transform and become stronger and more shocking. No wonder Yin Feng was so arrogant. It turned out that he had an innate spiritual body. Not bad. You are able to take a punch from me without being defeated. You should be proud of yourself for having such an achievement. However, I only used half of my strength just now. Let's see how many punches you can take. Yin Feng said coldly as he threw out another punch. Take it. One of the triplets roared, and a true dragon appeared above their heads. The three of them fused their bloodlines, and their shields grew larger and larger until they completely covered the true dragons. Dong! Yin Feng's punch landed on the shields once again. The shields vibrated violently, and a terrifying sound wave was emitted. Some people's faces changed and they almost vomited blood. Bang! Bang! The triplets were forced to retreat. Their dragon claws stepped on the ground and created huge holes in the ice. If this had happened in the continent of God, the ground within a radius of 10,000 miles would have been blown apart. The true dragons formed by the triplets trembled and almost exploded. Yin Feng's face turned cold when he failed to take down the triplets with 2 punches. He felt that his dignity was being challenged. It's my turn. He roared as a pair of silver gloves appeared on his hands. There was no doubt that the silver gloves were an Emperor's spiritual weapon. Yin Feng threw out another punch while wearing the Emperor's spiritual weapon. This time, the triplets could not take it anymore. Their shields were sent flying and their bloodlines scattered. They reverted to their true forms and were sent flying. They crashed into the walls of the valley and vomited mouthfuls of blood. You should be proud of yourself for being able to take 3 punches from me. I'll give you a chance and let you sign last. Yin Feng said indifferently with his hands behind his back. He then looked at Yin Fei Zhang and scolded. Why aren't you signing? Yes, yes. Chapter 1405. That person had no choice but to sign it. Then, a few more people signed the blood oath contract. Silver Flying Zhang took the blood oath contract and came before Qiu Yingying and Qiu Haoshan. He shouted, Sign it. I won't sign it. Qiu Yingying bit her lips and said, What? Silver Flying Zhang's face turned cold. Yin Feng's face also turned cold as killing intent flashed in his eyes. He had personally shown his strength, and there was still someone who refused to sign it? They were completely ignoring him. Do you know the consequences if you don't sign it? Silver Flying Zhang said coldly. The great Emperor's mystic realm must be filled with danger. You want us to sign the contract so that we will be at your disposal in the great Emperor's mystic realm. At that time, we will be your pawns. You want us to go first and reap the benefits? Qiu Yingying said loudly. Her words made many people's faces change. It was true. If Yin Feng and the others were to go first when they encountered danger in the great Emperor's mystic realm, they would be in deep trouble. They might not even be able to keep their lives, let alone the opportunity. Some of the people who had signed the contract turned pale. What did you say? You're courting death. Silver Flying Zhang roared. They had originally planned to find some scapegoats to work for them in the great Emperor's mystic realm. They did not expect Qiu Yingying to expose them. Although you are strong, we have so many people here. If we work together, why would we be afraid of you? Also, the seniors of the Divine Dragon Valley have crossed a great distance to summon us. Now that we have yet to enter the great Emperor's mystic realm, I don't believe that you can do anything to us. Qiu Yingying said loudly. Qiu Yingying's words made Yin Feng, Silver Flying Zhang, and the others' faces turn ugly. Bitch, don't think that I won't dare to touch you. You're just an ant. Even if I kill you, what can I do? Silver Flying Zhang shouted angrily as he threw a palm at Qiu Yingying. Xiao Yingying's face changed, and she quickly retreated. But Silver Flying Zhang's speed was extremely fast. He was like a bolt of green lightning as he flew towards Xiao Yingying. "Little sister," Xiao Hao exclaimed. He wanted to help her, but it was too late. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of Xiao Yingying and threw a punch. Bang! This figure's fist collided with Silver Flying Zhang's palm, causing Silver Flying Zhang to retreat a few steps. "Lu Ming, brother Lu!" Xiao Yingying and Xiao Hao both exclaimed. The figure that suddenly appeared in front of Xiao Yingying was naturally Lu Ming. Previously, Lu Ming had not made a move, because there was no need for that. He didn't know anyone else at the scene, so why should he make a move? But now that Xiao Yingying was involved, Lu Ming had no choice but to intervene. "Brat, you dare to attack me?" Silver Flying Zhang stared coldly at Lu Ming. "You dare? Who do you think you are? Why wouldn't I dare?" "Ridiculous." Lu Ming smiled. Hearing this, Silver Flying Zhang's expression froze. Then, he revealed a ferocious killing intent and shouted, "Die!" The silver hook reappeared in his hand and swept towards Lu Ming. He decided to kill Lu Ming as an example to others. Scram! 9 dragon forces erupted as he activated the suppressing Hell Heaven skill and punched out. Boom! The terrifying fist force blasted out, causing an ear-piercing explosion that shook the void. Silver Flying Zhang's expression changed drastically. He felt a terrifying force rushing towards him with unstoppable force. His body shook violently as he was sent flying backwards. Bam! Silver Flying Zhang's body crashed into the ice wall. The sound of bones breaking resounded as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Hiss, hiss, hiss! Gasps could be heard at the scene. Many people were dumbfounded as they looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming had injured Silver Flying Zhang with a single punch. Silver Flying Zhang's combat strength was obvious to all. He had cultivated a domain martial technique and was far stronger than his peers. But now, he couldn't even withstand a single blow from Lu Ming. The contrast was too great. It turned out that there was such a powerful person among them. Xiao Yingying and Xiao Hao were also dumbfounded. No wonder he has awakened the 9 dragons' bloodline. Xiao Yingying's beautiful eyes flashed. "Ah, brat, I'm going to kill you." Silver Flying Zhang roared as he struggled to get up. Whoosh! But a figure flashed and Lu Ming appeared in front of Silver Flying Zhang. He grabbed Silver Flying Zhang's throat and slammed him heavily against the ice wall. Boom! The ice wall let out a violent explosion. Silver Flying Zhang was like a toad that was hit by a brick. He let out a strange cry as blood flowed out of his mouth and nose. "What are you screaming for? Do you really think you're strong? You keep calling others trash and ants. In my eyes, you're the ant," Lu Ming said indifferently. The silver flying octopus struggled desperately in Lu Ming's hands. However, it was as helpless as a weak chick. "Do you think you're superior? You're just a native of Yuanlu and have cultivated a domain martial technique. Apart from domain martial technique, who here is weaker than you?" Lu Ming continued. This made many people clench their fists. Their confidence, which had been shaken, was restored. Yes, Silver Flying Zhang had only cultivated a domain martial technique. His talent might not be better than theirs. In the future, if they also cultivated a domain martial technique, how could they be weaker than Silver Flying Zhang? They just had the upper hand for now. These people were originally the top geniuses of their respective continents. They had strong minds and quickly regained their confidence. "Let him go." At this moment, a cold voice sounded behind Lu Ming. It was Yin Feng. At this moment, a layer of silver light appeared on Yin Feng's body. Even his eyes were shining with silver light. A bone-piercing killing intent was emitted from his body. Lu Ming held Silver Flying Zhang's neck and turned to look at Yin Feng with a faint smile. "You have guts and your combat strength is not bad. However, you dare to be so arrogant when you come to Dragon God Valley. The consequences will be tragic." Yin Feng said coldly. He looked at Lu Ming as if he was looking at a dead man. "Arrogant? Hee, according to what you mean, I can't even resist when you bully me. Once I resist, it's called arrogance. Is this the logic of a pig?" Lu Ming sneered. Yin Feng's face became even colder. His killing intent was bone-piercing. From the moment you said those words, you're dead. No one can save you. Oh, is that so? Since I started cultivating, I don't know how many people have said those words to me. However, in the end, they all became dead fish. I hope you won't be the next one. Lu Ming sneered. Don't compare me with those ants you met. Yin Feng said. Hee hee, in my eyes, you're not even comparable to an ant. Also, there's no need to keep this blood oath contract. Lu Ming threw silver flying Zhang far away and took the blood oath contract in his hand. You dare? Yin Feng shouted. I'm so scared. Chapter 1406. You're courting death. Yin Feng roared. His entire body seemed to have turned into a ball of silver light as he charged towards Lu Ming. Boom! He threw out a punch, and a silver fist force blasted towards Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming, watch out! Qiu Yingying called out worriedly from behind. Lu Ming smiled and threw out a punch. Bang! The two fists collided, and it was like a thunderclap. The entire valley resounded with a violent roar. A figure retreated continuously. Every step he took on the ground would create a huge pit. It was Yin Feng. The person who retreated was Yin Feng. Kill! Yin Feng was pushed back by a single move. He roared into the sky, and his body was covered with silver light as if he had turned into a silver person. The power of his domain and spiritual body were pushed to the extreme. He put on the pair of Emperor's spiritual weapon gloves again and threw a punch at Lu Ming. So strong. The power of this punch made the others turn pale with fright. They were greatly shaken. Yin Feng was too strong. They felt that if they were in Yin Feng's place, not even their bones would be left behind when facing this punch. He's really strong. This was Lu Ming's thought. Lu Ming felt that Yin Feng was stronger than Dician, whom he had met previously. But what did Lu Ming have to fear? The embryonic form of the chaotic domain covered his fist. He threw out a punch, and the faint shadow of the prison-suppressing steel flashed on his fist. Boom! The two fists collided for the second time. The place where the two stood exploded with a dazzling light. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared at the two. Who would win in the end? Bang! The light exploded, and a figure was sent flying far away, crashing into the ice wall of the valley. It's Yin Feng. It's him. He lost. There was an uproar at the scene. How is this possible? How is this possible? On the side, the other young man who came with Yin Feng and Yin Fei Zhang all widened their eyes in disbelief. They felt that they were dreaming and could not believe it. Yin Feng was a famous sky pride of the Divine Dragon Valley. He was born with a spiritual body and his combat power was unparalleled. There were not many who could match him at the same level. But now, they were being defeated by people from a mere uncivilized island. Furthermore, it was a crushing defeat. How could someone from a savage island be so strong? Kill. I'm going to rip you apart. Yin Feng went completely crazy. A silver dragon appeared above his head. Yin Feng used bloodline fusion and turned into a silver dragon, crazily pouncing towards Lu Ming. Is going crazy useful? Lu Ming sneered. He soared into the sky and punched out continuously. Boom, boom. The embryonic form of the primal chaos domain weighed hundreds of millions of kilograms as it slammed into the silver true dragon. The silver dragon roared and coiled in the sky. However, after a few moves, the silver dragon's body began to tremble. Cracks began to appear on its body, and it suddenly exploded. Within the silver light, Yin Feng's body appeared. 9 dragons stomping the heavens. Lu Ming looked down from above and took 9 steps in a row. All 9 steps landed on Yin Feng's face, leaving 9 shoe prints. Yin Feng's body fell heavily on the ground, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. You, who are high and mighty, have your face stepped on by the ant that you speak of. I wonder how you feel. Lu Ming said coldly. Hearing this, Yin Feng's chest tightened, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. His aura was extremely weak. Anger. Yin Feng's entire being seemed to be burning with anger. He was filled with crazy killing intent. He had actually been stepped on by an ant. If this matter were to spread out, he would definitely become the laughing stock of the Dragon God Valley and be ridiculed by his competitors. All of this was because of Lu Ming. He could not wait to tear Lu Ming into pieces. Now, get out of my sight, Lu Ming said coldly. If this wasn't the Divine Dragon Valley, he would not have let Yin Feng leave. He would have killed all of them. However, this was the Divine Dragon Valley and Lu Ming had just arrived. Moreover, Yin Feng's background was definitely not simple. If Lu Ming killed Yin Feng in front of everyone, he would definitely face revenge and be in danger. Therefore, Lu Ming let Yin Feng leave. Bastard! Just you wait, just you wait. Yin Feng left behind some harsh words and retreated with Yin Feizhong and the others in a sorry state. Lu Ming, I'm afraid that Yin Feng will take revenge on you for offending him like this. Qiu Yingying walked over and said worriedly, Don't worry, I didn't kill Yin Feng. I only injured him. It's a competition between peers. Those seniors will not lower themselves to take action. If they want to take revenge, it will only be between peers. As long as I'm careful, it should be fine. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Haha, it's finally fine. The blood oath has been torn apart. Not far away, laughter could be heard. Those who had signed the blood oath were ecstatic. Because the blood oath had been torn apart by Lu Ming, the blood oath was naturally useless. However, when they looked at Lu Ming, fear flashed in their eyes. No one came over to thank him. They thought of Yin Feng. Lu Ming had offended Yin Feng, and Yin Feng would definitely take revenge. If they were too close to Lu Ming, they might be implicated. Their eyes flickered, and they chose to stay away from Lu Ming and return to their cave dwellings. These people are really ungrateful, Qiu Yingying said hatefully. Lu Ming smiled and did not mind. This was human nature. Just now, Lu Ming had helped them and prevented them from being enslaved by Yin Feng. Perhaps, he might even save their lives in the great emperor's secret realm. However, these people ignored all of this. Compared to the possibility of Yin Feng's revenge, they ignored Lu Ming's kindness and chose to stay away from Lu Ming. Sometimes, humans were just that realistic. Brother, thank you for your help. At this moment, the triplet brothers walked over. One of them thanked Lu Ming. The other two cupped their fists. You're welcome. How should I address the three of you? Lu Ming smiled. The triplet brothers' unyielding character made Lu Ming admire them. I'm the eldest brother, Wan Tian. He's the second brother, Wan Di, and the younger brother, Wan Run. The two of them can't speak. Wan Tian introduced. Can't speak? Lu Ming, Qiu Yingying, and Qiu Hao were stunned. It was rare for martial arts experts to not know how to speak. This was because martial arts experts had strong physical bodies and incredible control over their bodies. The chronic ailments of mortals were no problem for martial arts experts. Therefore, being mute was unbelievable for martial arts experts. The few of them chatted for a while before returning to their cave dwellings. The Ruan brothers needed to go back and treat their injuries. As for Lu Ming, he returned to his cave dwelling and continued to cultivate. Now, the embryonic form of the chaotic domain was getting closer and closer to its limit. Lu Ming believed that he would be able to cultivate it to its limit before entering the great emperor's secret realm. Chapter 1407. In the vast snow mountain, Long Yuanshan was standing respectfully in front of an old man in a cave. Yuanshan, did you really meet a genius in the Divine Ruins Continent group who obtained the primordial chaos token? The old man asked. Yes, Master. I wanted to report to you as soon as I came back, but Master has been in seclusion, so I waited until now to report to you. Long Yuanshan said respectfully. Well, to be able to obtain the primordial chaos token in such a remote place, it's really not bad. My Divine Dragon Valley only has one primordial chaos token. The old man smiled gently. Not only that, Master, that little guy awakened the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Long Yuanshan said. Oh. The old man raised his eyebrows and was a little surprised. Master, that little guy is called Lu Ming. I have also inquired about him in the Divine Ruins Continent group. He is a righteous person and has a good character. Does Master want to accept him as a disciple? Long Yuanshan said. Hee, there's no hurry. Apprenticeship still depends on fate. It can't be forced. Everything depends on fate. The old man smiled. Yes, Master. Long Yuanshan bowed. Well, Yuanshan, You didn't tell anyone about Lu Ming obtaining the primordial chaos token, right? The old man asked. No, only Master knows about it in the Divine Dragon Valley, Long Yuanshan said. Well, then don't spread it out. His cultivation is still low. If it is spread out, he will be in trouble. The old man instructed. Long Yuanshan nodded. Long Yuanshan, you also have to cultivate well and try to break through to the Saint Realm. If you don't enter the Saint Realm, it will be difficult to reach the top. The old man's tone changed. Thank you for your advice, Master. I will work harder and break through to the Saint Realm. Long Yuanshan nodded. Well, go. The old man waved his hand. The following days were very peaceful. Yin Feng did not come to find trouble. Lu Ming was happy to be idle and cultivate in peace. A few months passed in the blink of an eye. The day of entering the great Emperor's secret realm had arrived. After a few months of cultivation, Lu Ming's embryonic form of Chaos Domain had been cultivated to the maximum 2 months ago. Over this period of time, he had been polishing his foundation so that his cultivation could reach a state of perfection. As for the other geniuses, they had made great progress. The cultivation environment here was simply too good. Their cultivation speed was extremely fast, and most of them had already stepped into the realm of utmost exalted. Only a small number of them remained at the perfected spirit god realm. Dong, dong, dong. On this day, the drum was sounded once again. Everyone walked out of the cave. Long Yuanchuan was waiting for them. All right, the martial emperor's mystic ground is about to open. Your trial and your opportunity has arrived. Now, follow me. After he finished speaking, Long Yuanchuan stepped into the air and left. Everyone followed. They flew out of the huge valley and arrived at a huge square. There were already many people waiting in the square. There were over 1,000 people gathered together. At a glance, they were all young people. Furthermore, the majority of them were utmost exalted level cultivators. They are the same as you. They are disciples that the Dragon God Valley recruited from various continents. They will also enter the great Emperor Mystic Realm together. Long Yuanchuan said as he landed on the plaza. So many people? Everyone was shocked. At a glance, there were at least 10,000 people in groups. Moreover, more and more people were arriving. These were the top geniuses of various continents. The Dragon God Valley had recruited so many people. However, when Lu Ming thought of the map of the entire Yuan realm, he was relieved. Outside the Yuan continent, in the vast and boundless ocean, there were too many continents like the divine desolate continent. They were endless. Recruiting tens of thousands of top geniuses was not a problem at all. It was just a drop in the ocean. People continued to fly over. In the end, there were about 20,000 people. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, a large number of figures flew over from the vast snowy mountains. There were a few thousand of them. They were all young people, and all of them were utmost exalted. However, these people did not land with Lu Ming and the rest. Instead, they landed at the top of the plaza. As soon as they landed, they looked at Lu Ming and the rest with various gazes. Some were curious, some were disdainful, some were arrogant, and some were despising. There were all kinds of gazes. Yin Feng. Lu Ming looked around and saw Yin Feng among the group of people. Lu Ming understood that the thousands of people who came later were the local geniuses of the Dragon God Valley. Yin Feng, I heard that you were defeated by a country bumpkin from a barbaric island a few months ago. You even stepped on his face 9 times. Is that true? A young man in a red robe walked towards Yin Feng and asked with a sneer. Humph, Chiku, I don't need you to care about my business. Yin Feng said with a cold face. You don't need me to care? Ha ha ha, Yin Feng, you are really useless. You can't even beat a country bumpkin from a barbaric island, and you were even stepped on 9 times. How embarrassing. It's fine if you are embarrassing yourself, but you even embarrassed the local geniuses of the Dragon God Valley. Why don't I care? Chiku, the young man in the red robe, mocked. The others on the side also sneered. Damn it. Yin Feng gritted his teeth and a murderous look appeared on his face. It's all Lu Ming's fault. That country bumpkin. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have been mocked by Chiku. He had been mocked a lot in the past few months. He couldn't wait to tear Lu Ming into pieces. That bastard! I must kill him! Yin Feng roared in his heart. His gaze swept through the crowd and landed on Lu Ming. Lu Ming seemed to have sensed Yin Feng's gaze and looked at him with a disdainful smile. Buzz! At this moment, an old man suddenly appeared in the sky above the square. Lu Ming didn't know how this old man appeared. It was as if he had been standing there before. The old man was burly and had a long beard. He looked very ordinary, like an ordinary person. However, he attracted everyone's attention just by standing there casually. They couldn't look away. It was as if this old man was the entire world. This aura, Lu Ming's pupil shrank rapidly. This old man's aura was very familiar. He thought of the heavenly profound saint. Their auras were very similar. A saint. Lu Ming was certain that this was a martial sage-level powerhouse. This was the first time Lu Ming had seen a living martial saint. Lu Ming couldn't help but release his spiritual consciousness. However, his body trembled in the next moment, and he quickly retracted his spiritual consciousness. When he hurriedly scanned with his spiritual sense, he seemed to see a world appear in front of him. A terrifying pressure acted on his heart. If it weren't for the fact that he withdrew his spiritual sense quickly and that the other party didn't have any hostility, his soul would have been injured just now. Too powerful. Is this the existence of the martial saint realm? I'm afraid that if he wants to kill me, he can kill me with just a breath. Chapter 1408. Above the martial emperor was the martial sage. The martial sage was also known as the sage, etc. A sage was unbelievably powerful. With just a thought, they could overturn rivers and seas. Compared to the martial emperor, they were much stronger. They were on a completely different level. Furthermore, the martial sage realm was different from the other realms. After the meridian opening realm, there were a total of 9 realms from the martial warrior realm to the martial emperor realm. Each realm was divided into 9 levels. However, the martial sage realm was completely different. The martial sage realm was divided into 3 realms: the bright sage realm, the great sage realm, and the absolute sage realm. Each realm was divided into 4 levels: small success, great success, peak, and complete realm. The gap between each realm was huge. The 3 realms were collectively known as the martial sage realm. Above it was the martial emperor realm, also known as the great emperor. It was said that the martial emperor realm was different from the martial sage realm. They wondered which realm the old man in front of them was at. Shush, shush, shush. The moment the old man appeared, Long Yuanchuan and the rest flew up into the sky. There were a total of 20 of them, and they greeted the old man. Greetings, Elder Hong. The burly old man nodded his head and waved his hand. Long Yuanchuan and the rest stood behind him respectfully, following which, Elder Hong's gaze swept across the crowd. Everyone felt a formless pressure pressing down on them. They immediately stood up straight, their expressions solemn. Even the local youths were all incomparably arrogant, but in front of Elder Hong's gaze, they all stood obediently and respectfully. I believe everyone already knows the objective of this trip. Elder Hong spoke. His voice was loud and clear, and it rang in everyone's ears. Here, I would like to emphasize a few points. Firstly, we are entering the Great Emperor's secret realm, and the Great Emperor is Emperor Tsang. Elder Hong announced once again. Many people were shocked. What? It's Emperor Tsang? I thought it was a secret realm left behind by a great emperor. I never expected it to be Emperor Tsang. At the scene, there was a lot of discussion, and the loudest ones were the local youths. That was because Emperor Tsang was too famous. Regardless of whether it was the Divine Dragon Valley or the Divine Sect, they were all located in Tsang State. As the name suggested, the Tsang State's name came from Emperor Tang. 60,000 years ago, the Tsang Emperor was the ruler of the Tsang Province, the only great emperor of the Tsang Province. But 60,000 years ago, Emperor Tsang suddenly disappeared without a trace. It was said that Emperor Tsang had already fallen. As for how he died, no one knew. With the disappearance of the Tsang Emperor, there was no longer a great emperor in the Tsang State. And this time, the great emperor mystic realm was actually Emperor Tsang's. This was beyond everyone's expectations. This time, Entering the Tsang Emperor's secret territory is not only a test, but also an opportunity for you. When you come out of the secret territory, you will become an official disciple of the Dragon God Valley. Also, the treasures you obtained in the secret territory, you can use them yourself. If you need them, you can keep them. The sect will not force you to hand them over. If you don't think it's useful, or if you have some high-level treasures or secret techniques, you can hand them over to the sect. The sect will compensate you with origin stones or treasures of equivalent value. Elder Hong's words caused the hearts of the crowd to turn fiery. The Dragon God Valley will not force you to hand over the treasures in the Great Emperor's secret territory. If you're willing to hand them over, then hand them over. The sect will also compensate you accordingly. This condition was too generous. It was shocking. What you get is yours. Lu Ming was secretly impressed. This was also a strategy of the Dragon God Valley. In this way, everyone would do their best to search for treasures because what you get is yours. If the Dragon God Valley gave the order to hand over all the treasures they obtained, who would risk their lives to search for treasures? At most, they would find a place to hide and pass the test when they come out. Anyway, these youths would become disciples of the Dragon God Valley in the future. The more treasures they obtained, the more benefits they would gain in the future. The second point, Elder Hong's voice sounded again. The crowd quietened down. The second point, this time, the 13 top sects in the Tsang province will send a large number of disciples in. The competition will definitely be intense. Therefore, the disciples of the Dragon God Valley must be united against the outsiders. Do you understand? Yes, Elder. Everyone replied loudly. All right, then follow me and depart. Elder Hong waved his hand and a battleship appeared in the sky. The moment it appeared, it expanded rapidly and became 100 miles long. Everyone flew onto the battleship. Although there were more than 20,000 people, it was still very spacious on a 100 miles long battleship. Let's go, Elder Hong shouted. The battleship broke through the sky and disappeared into the horizon. In the Yuan continent, due to the stability of the space, it was much more difficult to teleport. It wasn't that there weren't any teleportation arrays, but the price to pay was very high. Therefore, most people would use some external objects to travel, such as various large and small battleships and puppets. Elder Hong's battleship belonged to the large battleship category. The battleship broke through the sky at an astonishing speed. Moreover, as long as the origin stone was activated, it could continue flying without rest. A few days later, the battleship stopped above a desolate mountain range. Everyone came out of the battleship and stood in the sky. Elder Hong waved his hand and kept the battleship. Everyone looked around and realized that there were other people besides the Dragon God Valley. People from other sects had already arrived. It's the Heavenly Divinity sect, and the 9 Heaven Sword sect, and the Heavenly King Palace. The local youths could tell at a glance which faction those people belonged to. Out of the 13 top sects in the Tsang province, 5 or 6 had already arrived. The Heavenly God sect. Lu Ming looked to the east. The Heavenly God sect was in the east. There were tens of thousands of people there, twice the number of people compared to the Dragon God Valley. The Dragon God Valley had a higher requirement for bloodlines. They needed to awaken the bloodline of a true dragon or a scaled dragon. However, the Heavenly God sect cultivated a lot of different bloodlines. Fortunately, Lu Ming's eyesight was good. He saw a few familiar faces among the tens of thousands of people in the Heavenly God sect. Eden, Zi Wuji, Bing Kong, Ji Hongqian. However, he didn't see Xian Yinjuan. Lu Ming looked at the Heavenly God sect. Many people from the Heavenly God sect also looked at them. This time, Saintess Ninjuan told us that there are enemies in the Dragon God Valley and the Sky Universe Demon sect. She asked us to help her take care of them. In the Heavenly God sect, a young man with a flame mark between his eyebrows said, "Of course. Since the Saintess said so, we will take care of those ants." Another young man sneered. When the Saintess was mentioned, their eyes were filled with admiration and respect. The Saintess of the Heavenly God sect, Xian Yinjuan, was definitely a legendary figure. Chapter 1409. Later on, Xianyinjuan was conferred the title of Holy Maiden by the Heavenly God Sect. As she had broken through to the martial royal realm, she could not enter the great Emperor mystic realm. Hence, she asked a few geniuses of the Heavenly God Sect to enter the great Emperor mystic realm and help her get rid of a few strong enemies. How could they refuse to serve the Holy Maiden? Bingkong, Edian, Ziwuji, you came from the same continent as the Holy Maiden. Who is the one that the Holy Maiden asked us to kill? The young man with the flame mark on his forehead looked at Bingkong, Edian, Ziwuji, and Ji Hongchen. The four of their faces changed slightly. Edian was silent. So was Ji Hongchen. Senior brother Lu, it's that one. Bingkong spoke and pointed at Lu Ming's position. Oh, it's that kid. The young man with the flame mark on his forehead and a few other young men looked at Lu Ming. Ji Hongchen's face was filled with worry. This kid is mine. The young man with the flame mark on his forehead said casually. Lu Yin, that might not be the case. It's not that easy to win the saintess favor by yourself. That little brat can be killed with a wave of your hand. That will depend on our luck. Whoever meets him after entering the great emperor's mystic realm will be considered lucky. Another young man sneered. Let's see who's lucky. The young man with the flame mark on his forehead snorted. Lu Ming, who was in the Dragon God Valley, naturally saw Bingkong pointing at him. However, Lu Ming did not care. It was fine if these people did not provoke him. If they wanted to die, he did not mind sending them on their way. Shush. In the distance, more large sects arrived. As time passed, more and more powerful forces and sects arrived. The number of people at the scene increased. After a few hours, a total of 13 sects and forces arrived. These 13 sects and forces were the 13 strongest forces in the Tsang state. Each force had more than 20,000 people. In total, there were more than 300,000 people. In other words, this time, there would be more than 300,000 people entering the great Emperor mystic realm. That was a huge number. These people were top geniuses from various continents. Every major force was led by a Saint Realm expert. The 13 Saint Realm experts stood quietly in the air, not saying a word as they waited quietly. Soon, night fell and a moon appeared in the sky. Blood moon. This moon was actually blood red. A ray of blood-red moonlight shone from the blood moon. Wong. At this moment, ripples appeared in the sky. Layers of wave-like ripples appeared. At this moment, the eyes of the 13 Saint Realm powerhouses suddenly lit up, and a shocking aura burst forth from their bodies. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 13 saints stepped forward and appeared in the space where the ripples had appeared. Attention, we are now opening the entrance to the great Emperor Mystic Realm. A Saint Realm expert spoke. The auras of the 13 Saint Realm experts surged, as if 13 different worlds had appeared. At the same time, the 13 people attacked at the same time. 13 different colored lights flew forward and gathered together. Open. At first, it was blurry, but slowly, it became clearer and clearer. That is, Lu Ming's pupils constricted. What appeared in the void was a tomb, a huge tomb. It was extremely huge, even bigger than a mountain range. It was at least 100,000 feet tall. Countless people were surprised. Was this the great Emperor Mystic Realm? Or was this the tomb of a great emperor? Was the great Emperor Mystic Realm the tomb of a great emperor? Rumble. With a final rumble, the huge tomb appeared in the sky, as tall as the sky. Lu Ming had never seen such a majestic tomb before. Rumble. When the great necropolis appeared, the enormous tombstone in front of it began to move. Some of the more cowardly people sucked in a breath of cold air and involuntarily took a few steps back. The tombstone moved and finally opened completely, revealing a pitch-black space inside. It was extremely terrifying. This can't be the entrance to the great Emperor Mystic Realm, right? Someone spoke, his voice trembling. If it was an ordinary tomb, no one would be afraid. However, this involved a great emperor, and it was a little terrifying. That's right, this is the entrance. Hurry up and enter. If you are late, the tombstone will close. A sage realm expert said. Really? Some people's hearts skipped a beat. Ha ha ha, isn't it just a tomb? What a coward. Someone laughed loudly, and took the lead to fly over. Whoosh, whoosh. Then, more and more people flew in. Let's go. More than 20,000 people from the Divine Dragon Valley also flew towards the entrance of the tomb. Lu Ming followed the crowd and flew in. The entrance of the tomb was huge, and it could accommodate many people at the same time. Soon, everyone flew into the tomb. Rumble. When everyone flew into the tombstone rumbled and closed automatically. It was pitch black inside the tomb, and they couldn't even see their own fingers. Even if everyone's cultivation was high, they could still see in the dark. However, they couldn't see anything here. In the next moment, someone condensed a flame, and there was a trace of dim light in the tomb. A ball of flame also appeared in Lu Ming's hand, and he could barely see a few dozen meters around him. Brother Lu. Xiao Yingying's voice was heard as she walked towards Lu Ming. Xiao Hao was beside Xiao Yingying. Lady Qiao, Brother Qiao? Lu Ming greeted the two of them. Heavenly King Palace, gather here. Heavenly God Sect, gather here. Divine Dragon Valley, gather here. Voices could be heard in the darkness as the disciples of the 13 factions began to gather. In such an environment, they would only feel safe if they gathered together. Lu Ming and the other two also gathered in the direction of Divine Dragon Valley. There seems to be a lot of forks. Xiao Yingying looked around. At this moment, many people had condensed flames, holy light, and the like. Countless lights lit up the space like stars in the night sky. They found themselves in a huge stone chamber. This stone chamber was extremely huge, and it could easily accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. There were many large passages around the stone chamber. There were no signs at the entrance of the passages, and no one knew where these passages led to. Heavenly King Palace disciples, let's go this way. Heavenly God Sect disciples, this way. In the end, the 13 forces each chose a passage. Those from the Divine Dragon Valley chose a passage on the left and walked forward carefully. The passage was huge, and it wasn't crowded at all with tens of thousands of people walking together. Chapter 14:10. Soon, they had traveled more than 100 miles. However, the tunnel seemed to have no end. It was shockingly long, and they had not reached the end yet. The walls here seemed to be covered with inscriptions. Xiao Yingying whispered. Lu Ming glanced around. Indeed, the walls here were covered with inscriptions. The structure of the inscriptions was strange, and the combination was very strange. It looked very strange. Moreover, there was nothing strange about the inscriptions. They seemed to have lost their spirituality after a long time. Brother Lu, be careful, Xiao Yingying suddenly exclaimed. At this moment, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Without thinking, he moved a few meters to the side. Whoosh! A wisp of strange black thorns pierced the spot where Lu Ming was standing earlier. Whoosh! Whoosh! Then, another black thorn stabbed toward Lu Ming. Not only that, but it also stabbed toward Xiao Yingying and Xiao Hao. Watch out! Lu Ming's figure flashed continuously, avoiding the attack of the black thorn. Xiao Yingying and Xiao Hao also flashed and avoided the attack. However, they seemed to be in a sorry state. Despicable. It's Yin Feng. Xiao Yingying stared ahead angrily. Lu Ming saw Yin Feng standing under the wall. His palm was on the wall, and there was a flash of light. The black thorn had shot out from the wall where Yin Feng's palm was. Yin Feng had used a special method to activate the inscriptions on the wall to attack them. Hee, you're lucky. Yin Feng sneered. His body flashed, and he disappeared into the darkness in front of the tunnel. Despicable. Before the Saint Realm elders came in, they told us to be united, but Yin Feng secretly tried to kill us. Xiao Yingying gritted her teeth. Despicable. Xiao Hao also said with hatred. They had been in danger just now. They felt that the strange black thorn was extremely terrifying. If it had hit them, they would have died. Lu Ming's eyes flashed coldly, but he did not say anything. After that, they became more careful and continued to move forward. After about 100 miles, light gradually appeared in front of them. It was no longer pitch black. The pressure in their hearts finally lightened. After walking for a while longer, everyone came to a halt. There was an abyss in front of them. The abyss had blocked their path. Above the abyss, There were 10 bridges leading to the other side of the abyss. However, in front of the abyss, there was a stone tablet with 4 words written on it. 9 deaths, 1 life. 10 bridges meant 9 deaths and 1 life. What did he mean? Did that mean that out of the 10 bridges, 9 led to dead ends and 1 led to life? But how could he pass this? Which one was the way out? What should we do? Someone said. Isn't that simple? Find 10 people and test it out. Within the crowd, a cold voice sounded out. It was Feng. Everyone was shocked. Finding 10 people to try this method was very simple. However, 9 out of 10 of them would lead to death. Those who tried this method would only have a slim chance of surviving. Who would be willing to try? Going there would be suicide. Isn't that simple? You, and you, get up. Feng pointed his finger and selected 10 people. Among them were Lu Ming, Qiu Yingying, Qiu Hao, and the triplets of the Yuan family. Why should I go up and try? Impossible. If you want to go, then go. One of the people who was pointed out shouted, What are you shouting for? Lowly ants from a barbaric island. Our divine Dragon Valley has traversed a great distance to summon you here, allowing you to enter the great Emperor's mystic realm to obtain supreme opportunities. Are you not going to do anything? Now, it's time for you to do something. Feng sneered. That's right. Go up quickly. With your strength, this is all you can do. Otherwise, why are you here? To eat and drink for free? Beside Feng, another youth sneered. No, I'm not going. That youth shouted and shook his head. You're courting death. Feng's eyes turned cold. His figure suddenly appeared beside that youth and punched out. Bang! That youth's body flew far away as he vomited blood. His aura was extremely weak. If you're not going, I'll kill you now. Feng's eyes were as cold as lightning as he swept his gaze towards Lu Ming and the rest. Idiot! Lu Ming curled his lips. Lu Ming did not lower his voice, and his voice spread far away. What did you say? Feng glared at Lu Ming. Not only are you an idiot, even your hearing is bad. Lu Ming glanced at Feng in disdain. Kid, it's time for you to contribute to the Divine Dragon Valley. Go up and scout. Do you want so many people to wait for you? If the other sects were to gain the upper hand, would you be able to bear the responsibility? Feng shouted. The other local youths sneered as they watched. The other youths from the other continents looked on coldly. To them, it was best if Lu Ming went up. At least they would not have to take the risk. If Lu Ming did not go, what if Feng found them? Since you want to contribute to the Divine Dragon Valley, why don't you go up yourself? Wouldn't it be more efficient? Lu Ming said faintly. Who do you think you are? Can your life be compared to mine? Feng shouted coldly. Feng, why are you wasting time with him? If you don't want to go up, just throw him up. The youth beside Feng said coldly. At the same time, he strode towards Lu Ming. Kid, I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Do you want to go up yourself, or do you want me to throw you over? The youth was wearing a purple robe and his face was cold. He reached out his hand and grabbed at Lu Ming. Throw him over. I think that's a good idea. Lu Ming sneered. The fledgling chaotic domain covered his body, and he threw a punch at the youth. Boom. The purple-robed young man's body shook violently, and he spurted blood from his mouth. Just as he was about to be sent flying by Lu Ming took a step forward and slapped the purple-robed young man's face. Pa! The crisp sound of a slap resounded as the youth's body landed heavily on the ground. The sound of bones breaking could be heard from his body. No one knew what the ground was made of, but it was unbelievably hard. It was impossible to damage it. The youth laid on the ground and wailed like a dying dog. Kid, how dare you? Impudent. How dare you hurt someone? You're just an ant from the desolate land. You're courting death. Everyone was shocked when Lu Ming beat up the purple-robed young man until he was half dead. Subsequently, more than 10 local youths shouted one by one, exuding a cold, murderous intent. Their figures flashed, and they surrounded Lu Ming. In their eyes, an ant from a desolate island dared to attack them. He was courting death. It seems that there are enough people to test the 10 bridges. Lu Ming sneered. What did you say? What shameless boasting. Die. A youth shouted and charged at Lu Ming. The next moment, bang. Lu Ming's fist landed on his dantian. He let out a shrill scream and lay on the ground, unable to move. Shio, 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 ah, ah, ah. Chapter 14:11. Everyone at the scene was stunned. Lu Ming was so strong. Those youths were the local elites of the Divine Dragon Valley. All of them had cultivated realm martial techniques, and their combat abilities were powerful, far surpassing those of the geniuses from overseas. However, these people were powerless in the hands of Lu Ming. They were easily defeated by Lu Ming. Most of the youths were dumbfounded. A small number of people revealed serious expressions. Yin Feng. After taking care of the youths, Lu Ming looked at Yin Feng. Whoosh. With a move of his body, Lu Ming walked toward Yin Feng. Enough. A cold voice was heard. A young man with a cold expression appeared beside Yin Feng and looked at Lu Ming coldly. Enough? Who do you think you are? Get lost. Lu Ming shouted. The youth's eyes darkened and he said, You are from the same sect. I don't think there is a need for you to stay in the Dragon God Valley. Now, you have no share in this secret realm. Go back. Get lost. Lu Ming's reply was even simpler this time. He only had one word. You are courting death. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you are strong. I will show you what true strength is. The youth said coldly, and the roar of a dragon came from his body. Roar. Then, the youth let out a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar. He bent his fingers like a claw and grabbed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming saw a real dragon grabbing at Lu Ming. Innate spiritual body. Lu Ming's heart stirred. As soon as this young man attacked, Lu Ming could sense that he was like Yin Feng. He also had an innate spirit body. Moreover, it was a special dragon body. Boom. When the youth attacked, a terrifying force came from behind Lu Ming. It was Yin Feng. He took the opportunity to sneak an attack on Lu Ming. You are courting death. Facing the encirclement, he did not panic in the slightest. His figure flashed as he dodged the claw in front of him. With a twist of his body, he sent a palm strike at Yin Feng. Yin Feng's expression changed. He did not expect Lu Ming to react so quickly. He wanted to retreat, but it was already too late. Bang! Lu Ming's palm struck his fist, causing his entire body to tremble as he staggered back. Lu Ming circulated his primal chaos domain and used the suppressing hell heavenly skill to attack Yin Feng. Let's attack together and kill this person. This person is lawless. Yin Feng roared. However, other than the young man from before, the others did not make a move. In the Dragon God Valley, the competition was very fierce. Many local disciples were competitors with Yin Feng, so they were happy to see him suffer. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming's fists were like a mountain as he continuously threw out a few punches. Yin Feng was barely able to block a few of them. After being punched in the stomach by Lu Ming, Yin Feng's eyeballs almost popped out as he vomited a large mouthful of blood. Slap. Lu Ming slapped Yin Feng's face. The terrifying force almost caused Yin Feng's head to explode. There was a loud bang in his head, and he fell to the ground. How could this be? The young man who attacked Lu Ming earlier narrowed his eyes. Yin Feng's battle strength was about the same as his, but he was defeated by Lu Ming in a few moves. This caused him to be greatly shocked as he quickly retreated. Now, do you think you can retreat? Lu Ming said coldly as he circulated his wind origin technique and rushed towards the other party. The result was as expected. After a few moves, the other party ended up in the same state as Yin Feng. He was beaten into a dead dog, lying weakly on the ground. Now, someone can scout the way, Lu Ming said softly. He carried Yin Feng and the young man and walked towards the edge of the abyss. Kid, what are you trying to do? The elders have warned us to be united. You injured your fellow disciples, and now you want to harm your fellow disciples, going against the elders' orders. When we get out, I will report this to the sect. Yin Feng yelled. He was the one who wanted to deal with Lu Ming. Previously, in the tunnel, he activated the inscription and wanted to kill Lu Ming. Later on, he wanted Lu Ming to scout the way. He was the one who started everything. Now, he was slandering Lu Ming for harming his fellow disciples. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He grabbed the two of them and walked to the edge of the abyss. No, no, no. I'm warning you. Yin Feng and the other young man almost peed in their pants. They roared crazily and struggled with all their might. However, Lu Ming had already sealed their cultivation with his true origin technique. No matter how they struggled, it was useless. Then, Lu Ming threw the two of them out. They flew towards a different bridge. Didn't the two of them want to scout the way? Then let the two of them test it out. The two of them screamed crazily in the air. One of them was hoarse, and the other was miserable. It was worse than a pig being slaughtered. Whoosh, whoosh. The two of them flew along the bridge and landed on the other side, falling to the ground. After falling, the two of them were still screaming. Are they okay? Everyone was stunned. The two of them were fine. Weren't they supposed to die? Logically speaking, there was only one way out. How could there be two? Let's try again. Lu Ming moved and grabbed a few young men who had been knocked down by him just now. He threw them along the other bridges while they were screaming. The few of them flew over one by one, and nothing happened to them. Then, Lu Ming tried the 10 bridges one by one. They were all fine. So it's just to scare people. It's fine at all. Let's go. The young men of Dragon God Valley cursed and rushed over the bridges. They were all fine. The 10 bridges were just to scare people. Lu Ming touched his nose. Why did it seem like a prank? Damn it, damn it. Yin Feng and the young man with the innate spirit body screamed crazily in their hearts. This time, they had lost a lot of face. Just now, when the two of them were facing the threat of death, they screamed and yelled. They looked really pathetic. Moreover, they would not be able to raise their heads in front of so many people. They blamed all of this on Lu Ming. Seeing Lu Ming walk onto the bridge, the two of them were shocked. They hurriedly rushed into the passage ahead and disappeared without a trace. These guys are lucky, Lu Ming muttered. They were indeed lucky if they were still alive. Lu Ming, Qiu Yingying, and the others crossed the bridge and continued forward. This time, they saw a door after walking for a while. They walked out of the door and arrived at a huge platform. People from other factions. Lu Ming looked around and found that the platform was very big and long. There were also doors on both sides of Lu Ming and the others, and disciples of other factions appeared. It turned out that there were many passages in the great tomb that led to this place. In front of the platform, there was a huge bubble-like object that was bobbing up and down. The shadows of mountains and rivers could be vaguely seen in the bubble. There was actually a world inside. Is that the real Great Emperor's mystic realm? It must be. This is a plane. It's normal for a Great Emperor's mystic realm to be in a plane. Let's go in. Someone flew up and rushed toward the bubble. Chapter 14:12. When they got close to the bubble, their bodies shrunk rapidly. When they got close to the bubble, they became the size of a speck of dust. Then, they entered the bubble and disappeared. I'm fine. Many people saw that they were fine after entering the bubble. More people rushed towards the bubble. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the densely packed figures charged into the bubble before disappearing into it. Let's go too, Lu Ming said as he flew towards the bubble with Qiu Yingying and the others. When they flew towards the bubble, there was a strong gravitational force on the bubble that sucked them in. The closer they got to the bubble, the bigger the bubble in front of them became. Then, their figures also entered the bubble and disappeared. On the platform, Yin Feng and a few others looked at Lu Ming's disappearing figure and their bodies emitted cold murderous intent. Just you wait. I'll kill this person. The young man with the innate spiritual body let out a furious roar. Although Lu Ming's combat strength is strong now, when we reach the Great Emperor's secret realm and break through to the Martial Emperor realm, our combat strength will increase greatly. Moreover, our innate spiritual bodies will also transform. When that time comes, we'll kill him. Yin Feng gritted his teeth and said, That's right. What's the use of having a martial saint's combat strength? When we break through to the Martial Emperor realm, we'll make him die a horrible death. The person who spoke earlier gritted his teeth and said, Their cultivation had reached the peak of the Martial Saint realm, and they could break through to the Martial Emperor realm at any time. Moreover, their identities were not ordinary. They had strong people behind them and were ready to break through to the martial emperor realm. They were 100% confident that they could break through to the martial emperor realm. Moreover, the innate spiritual bodies would transform when they broke through to the martial emperor realm. They would reach the level of an inferior earth spiritual body, and their combat strength would increase greatly. They would be much stronger than ordinary spiritual bodies. When that time came, they were confident that they would make Lu Ming die a horrible death. Then, the few of them flew towards the bubble and disappeared into it. When Lu Ming flew into the bubble, he felt the world spin. In the next moment, he appeared high up in the sky. He quickly circulated his true essence to stabilize his body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Ripples appeared in the sky all around. Lu Ming scanned the area and discovered that there were many people in the void. There were more than 100 people in his line of sight, but he did not see Qiu Yingying and the rest. It seemed that after entering this secret realm, one would appear at random places. In the void, more than 100 people sized each other up. Among these 100 people, there were people from the 13 sections. It's that kid from Dragon God Valley. One of them looked at Lu Ming, and his eyes lit up. This person was the youth with the flame mark on his forehead from the Heavenly Divine Sect. His name was Lu Yin. Senior brother Lu Yin, our luck is really good. A figure appeared beside Lu Yin. It was Bing Kong. Haha, my luck is really good. Those guys wanted to compete with me. Once I kill this guy, the Holy Maiden will definitely look at me in a new light. Lu Yin was overjoyed. She stepped forward and walked toward Lu Ming. Bing Kong followed. Lu Ming naturally noticed Bing Kong and Lu Yin. He stood quietly in the void with a calm face. Kid, you must be Lu Ming. It's your bad luck to meet me. Lu Yin sneered, and a cold murderous intent appeared on her body. You want to kill me? Because of him? Lu Ming asked, looking at Bing Kong. Lu Ming guessed that Bing Kong wanted to kill him. After all, when Yuan Lu's sect was selecting disciples in the Divine Ruins Continent group, Bing Kong was badly beaten by him. Him? You guessed wrong. It's the Holy Maiden who wants to kill you. Haha, no one can save you today. Lu Yin sneered, and a powerful aura emanated from her body. Holy Maiden? Lu Ming frowned. The Holy Maiden of the Heavenly Divine Sect wanted to kill him? However, he had just arrived and did not know the Holy Maiden of the Heavenly Divine Sect. Lu Ming, you would never have guessed that Xian Yinjuan has become the Holy Maiden of the Heavenly Divine Sect and has been accepted as a direct disciple by the Great Elder of the Heavenly Divine Sect. Bing Kong said, Xian Yinjuan, the Holy Maiden of the Heavenly Divine Sect? Lu Ming was surprised. He never expected that Xian Yinjuan would become the Holy Maiden of the Heavenly Divine Sect. No wonder he did not see Xian Yinjuan among the disciples of the Heavenly Divine Sect. Speaking of Xian Yinjuan, Lu Ming could not help but think of Xian Yinqing. Previously, he did not see Xian Yinqing among the disciples of the Heavenly Universe Demon Sect. What was going on? Lu Ming was a little worried. He decided to find time to go to the Heavenly Universe Demon Sect to inquire about the situation after this matter was over. Yes, Lu Ming. Now, do you regret offending Holy Maiden Yinjuan? Bing Kong exuded a cold aura. Regret? What's there to regret? If she comes, I will still trample on her. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Arrogant, you're courting death. A cold light flashed in Lu Yan's eyes. Senior brother Lu Yan, this person has a grudge with me. Why don't you let me deal with him? Bing Kong said to Lu Yan. You want to snatch the credit from me? Lu Yan's face darkened. Senior brother, you misunderstood. How would I dare? As long as I cripple him, whether I kill him or not, I will let senior brother decide. The credit will naturally go to senior brother. This Lu Ming has a grudge with me in the past. If I don't avenge this grudge, I will not be at peace. Bing Kong hurriedly explained. Oh, I see. Then you can make your move. Lu Yin nodded and stood aside to watch with her hands behind her back. Clang. Bing Kong unsheathed his battle sword. An ice-cold long sword appeared in his hand. On his body, the embryonic form of the ice domain spread out and pressed towards Lu Ming. Do you think you are my opponent? Lu Ming said indifferently. Haha, Lu Ming, things are different now. You are ignorant. 2 years ago, you stayed in the Godly Ruins continent. How can the cultivation environment in the Godly Ruins continent be compared to the Yuan continent? I came 2 years earlier than you, and my cultivation has already reached the peak supreme being. How much progress can you make by staying in the Godly Ruins continent? Bing Kong sneered. Oh, is this the reason why you are so confident? How pathetic. Lu Ming shook his head, and an aura spread out from his body. The aura of a supreme being. Bing Kong's face changed. He did not expect that Lu Ming's cultivation had also reached the supreme being realm. It seems that you have made great progress in the past few months in the Yuan continent, Bing Kong said. He believed that Lu Ming had broken through to the supreme being realm in the past few months in the Yuan continent. Lu Ming smiled and did not bother to explain. But even if we are both supreme beings, you are still not my opponent. Ice Jade Art, kill. Bing Kong suddenly moved and merged with his sword. A terrifying ice jade sword mark flew towards Lu Ming. Its power was shocking. So you have cultivated a domain martial technique. Lu Ming could tell at one glance that Bing Kong was using a kind of realm martial technique. No wonder Bing Kong was so confident. Boom. Lu Ming threw a punch at Bing Kong. Wherever Lu Ming's fist passed, Bing Kong's sword chi instantly collapsed. Chapter 14:13. Bing Kong felt an earth-shattering power surging towards him. This power wasn't something he could resist. He turned pale with fright. How could Lu Ming be so powerful? Boom. The terrifying power slammed into his body. He let out a miserable shriek as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flew far away and crashed into a mountain peak in the distance. How is this possible? His eyes widened as he stared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming had always stayed in the Divine Ruins Continent Group. It was impossible for the Divine Ruins Continent Group to have a domain martial skill. How could Lu Ming's combat strength be so strong? Originally, he was full of confidence. He had come to the Yuan continent 2 years earlier than Lu Ming, and his cultivation had increased greatly. He had reached the peak of the Supreme Realm. Moreover, he was good at socializing. He got to know Lu Yin and the others and obtained a domain martial skill that was suitable for him. After he cultivated it, his combat strength had increased greatly, far surpassing Yi Dian and Ziwu Ji. Initially, he wanted to suppress Lu Ming after meeting him this time to take revenge for what he had done to him in the past. But after meeting Lu Ming, everything went beyond his expectations. Not only had Lu Ming's cultivation reached the Supreme Realm, but his combat strength was also strong enough to completely crush him. He had severely injured him with a single move. This is your combat strength. This is what you rely on. Trash will always be trash. Even if you came to the Yuan continent 2 years earlier, you still couldn't withstand a single blow. Lu Ming scolded coldly. You! Bing Kong was enraged as he spat out another mouthful of blood. Hee, you do have some combat strength. But with this combat strength, you dare to be arrogant in front of my heavenly god sect's disciple? I think you've found the wrong person. A cold voice resounded as a blazing aura shrouded Lu Ming. Lu Yin appeared in front of Lu Ming. Her body was covered in a golden flame. The terrifying temperature spread towards Lu Ming. What a high temperature. This person also has an innate spirit body. Lu Ming's heart moved. The flames on Lu Yan's body weren't condensed through her domain or concept, but rather directly emitted from her body. His body emitted flames at an astonishing temperature. This was something only a spirit body could do. There were some onlookers in the surroundings, but at this moment, they couldn't help but retreat. Among them, there were a few disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley. However, they all retreated coldly, showing no intention of attacking. Lu Yan's flame spirit body is extremely powerful. That little brat is dead for sure. If an ordinary person were to encounter an innate spirit body, they would only be killed instantly. There were a few people who spoke, taking joy in his misfortune. Nonsense, make your move. I don't have time to waste with you. Lu Ming berated. Since you're in a hurry to reincarnate, I'll fulfill your wish. Fire God slash. Lu Yin roared and slashed her palm towards Lu Ming like a blade. The flames condensed into a flaming saber and slashed towards Lu Ming's head. It was as if it was the fire god's saber. Its power was terrifying. The fledgling primal chaos domain coiled around his body as Lu Ming punched out. Boom! The prison-suppressing steel flashed in the void, allowing Lu Ming's punch to collide with the flaming saber. Shockwaves rippled out. Then, the void trembled, and the flaming battle saber crumbled. As for Lu Yin, she was also pushed back by the force of the impact. "Is this all you've got?" Lu Ming said lightly, revealing a trace of mockery. Lu Yin's face turned gloomy. Lu Ming's combat strength had exceeded her expectations. Fire God's secret art. 8 Desolation Annihilation. Lu Yin roared. Her whole body seemed to have turned into a fire god. She was 1,000 meters tall and slashed out with her saber. Boom! Lu Ming rushed up. There was no shocking phenomenon, just a punch. It was a simple punch, but the power was enough to suppress mountains and rivers. Boom! The fist and the saber collided for the second time. Dong! Heaven and earth roared. Endless flames rushed out in all directions. The flaming saber collapsed again. Then, Lu Ming stepped in the air and punched out. A terrifying fist energy crossed 100 miles and hit the fire god that was 1,000 meters tall. Boom! A big hole was punched in the fire god's huge body. The flames in the sky disappeared. Lu Yin frantically retreated. A big hole had appeared in his chest. However, he was not seriously injured. It was as if his whole body was formed by flames. At this moment, the flames in the big hole were wriggling, and the big hole was quickly mending. "I have a fire spiritual body. You can't hurt me." Lu Yan's angry voice rang out. "A fire spiritual body is really amazing," Lu Ming said. After breaking through to the martial emperor realm, the spiritual body was formed by blood. Naturally, it would have some of the characteristics of the blood. For example, the natural bloodline, such as fire, ice, water, lightning, etc. These bloodlines were difficult to break through to the martial emperor realm when they performed bloodline fusion. For example, if the flames were destroyed, the body could be reformed. Of course, this referred to the time when the bloodline fusion was performed. However, after condensing the spiritual body, it was even more amazing. For example, the fire spiritual body seemed to be made of flames. Even if the whole body was destroyed, it could be reformed, and its vitality would be greatly enhanced. However, there was a limit to everything. If the spiritual body encountered someone with a strong cultivation, it could directly destroy the spiritual body with a strong force. Is that so? The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up into a cold smile. He continued to step forward and charged towards Lu Yin. "Flame cage!" Lu Yin roared. His whole body turned into flames. The flames in the sky formed a huge cage, enveloping Lu Ming. He wanted to use the power of the flames to refine Lu Ming. Primal chaos. The light of primal chaos spread out from Lu Ming's palm. The embryonic form of the primal chaos domain was like a ball of primal chaos, wrapping around Lu Ming's fist. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch at the flaming cage. This time, the flaming cage completely collapsed, turning into flames that filled the sky. At the same time, the flames in the sky flew to the distance and began to converge. Lu Yan's body reappeared, but this time, his face was abnormally pale, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. "You can extinguish my flames," Lu Yan roared in horror. Lu Ming's punch just now had directly started to destroy his spiritual body, causing him to be seriously injured. If a few more punches came, he would probably die. "What fire spiritual body? Trash," Lu Ming said coldly. He stepped into the void and headed towards Lu Yin. His primal chaos domain was the emperor of countless domains. It was normal for it to destroy a fire spiritual body. "Go." Lu Yin didn't dare to stay any longer. He turned around and ran. Boom! A fist filled with the light of primal chaos blasted towards him. Lu Yan's body was directly penetrated by the fist, and a hole appeared in his body. Moreover, this time, no matter how he mobilized the flames to recover, the hole couldn't be healed in a short time. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, but he didn't dare to stay any longer. He turned into a flame and fled frantically. Boom! Lu Ming punched again across the sky. Chapter 14:14. A natural spiritual body was indeed mysterious. Its life force was much stronger than others. If it were anyone else, they would have been destroyed by Lu Ming's punches. However, Lu Yin was only severely injured and was able to escape. What a strong combat power! The surrounding onlookers sucked in a breath of cold air. Lu Yin had an innate fire spiritual body. Without a doubt, she was a peerless genius who had cultivated a domain martial skill. This kind of prodigy could kill other prodigies of the same level as easily as chopping vegetables. However, he was completely crushed when he encountered Lu Ming. Let's go and find a place to break through to the martial emperor realm. Even if he's strong now, he might not be strong enough to break through to the martial emperor realm. Then, their figures flashed as they left the place to find a place to break through to the martial emperor realm. The yuan qi here was unbelievably dense. It was much denser than the yuan qi of the outside world. No wonder it was the great emperor's secret realm. After Lu Yin escaped, Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared in front of Bing Kong. Lu Ming, spare my life. Bing Kong was extremely shocked. When he saw Lu Ming arrive, he immediately cried out in fright. Swoosh! Lu Ming did not bother to talk nonsense with him. He flicked his finger and a spear flew out, killing Bing Kong. Rumble! At that moment, a violent explosion sounded in the distance. Lightning flashed across 10,000 miles, as if it was going to tear the heavens and earth apart. Lu Ming looked into the distance and saw dark clouds gathering. A figure was resisting the lightning under the dark clouds. Someone is trying to break through to the martial emperor realm so soon. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. It was obvious that someone was trying to break through to the martial emperor realm, going through the martial emperor tribulation. Normally, no one would dare to disturb someone who was going through the tribulation. Otherwise, they would be implicated. Therefore, when someone was going through the tribulation, they would not have any scruples. No one would dare to disturb them, and they would stay far away. Rumble! Dark clouds gathered and 10,000 lightning cauldrons fell from the sky, covering the figure. The martial emperor tribulation was extremely terrifying. The figure roared to the sky and resisted the tribulation. Lu Ming watched for a while before leaving. He needed to find a place to cultivate and break through to the martial emperor realm. Rumble! Before he could fly far, another loud sound rang out in front of him. Thousands of thunderbolts scattered. Another person was transcending the tribulation to become a ruler. Boom! Boom! Then, Lu Ming heard thunderous booms coming from many directions. They were all transcending the tribulation and breaking through to become rulers. This time, several 100,000 people had entered, and many of them had reached the limit of the supreme being level. In particular, the local youths were suppressing their cultivations. Otherwise, they would have broken through to become rulers long ago. They had suppressed their cultivation in order to enter the great emperor's mystic realm. Now that they had entered the great emperor's mystic realm, they no longer needed to suppress their cultivation. They all began to break through to the martial emperor realm. Once they broke through to the martial emperor realm, they would gain the upper hand. Go! Lu Ming turned into a beam of light and left the area. After flying for more than 2 hours, Lu Ming arrived at a desolate mountain. He dug a cave in one of the mountains. Lu Ming flew in and blocked the cave. Then, he sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. First, Lu Ming had to adjust his condition to the extreme and find an opportunity to condense his spirit body and break through to the next realm. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Lu Ming was like a rock, sitting there cross-legged and motionless. The aura on his body became more and more condensed and smooth. However, Lu Ming still did not find the feeling, the opportunity to break through. According to the primal chaos scripture, every breakthrough is 10 times, or 100 times, more difficult than others. There's no rush. I'll take it slow. Lu Ming had many thoughts in his mind. His anxious heart gradually calmed down, and he entered an ethereal state. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days passed. Suddenly, Lu Ming opened his eyes. It's done. A smile appeared on Lu Ming's face. Immediately, he activated the Dragon God Battle Body's Exuberance chapter. Roar! The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared. Then, The Nine Dragons bloodline wrapped around Lu Ming's body. The Nine Dragons bloodline emitted a layer of bloodlight. This bloodlight constantly seeped into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming wanted to condense the Nine Dragons bloodline into his body and merge it with his physical body to cultivate the Dragon God Battle Body. The Dragon God Battle Body technique was activated. The power of the Nine Dragons bloodline constantly fused into Lu Ming's body. The stronger the bloodline, the more difficult it was to refine the bloodline. Moreover, there was a certain danger. Because the bloodline was already very powerful at this point, it could easily burst the body. This was also a step that many people found difficult to take. Fortunately, Lu Ming had already cultivated the pure spirit body and had reached 100% mastery. With the pure spirit body as the foundation, this step was not difficult for Lu Ming. The Nine Dragons bloodline constantly turned into bloodlight and fused into Lu Ming's body. It was extremely fast. In less than an hour, the Nine Dragons bloodline had completely faded. Then, with a bang, the Nine Dragons bloodline collapsed and turned into a ball of bloodlight that drilled into Lu Ming's body. The Nine Dragons' power in the Nine Dragons bloodline naturally fused into Lu Ming's body and became a part of Lu Ming's strength. Roar. At this moment, a series of dragon roars sounded from Lu Ming's body. However, the Dragon God Battle Body had not been successfully cultivated yet. It still needed to be tempered by the heavenly tribulation. Only by going through the heavenly tribulation could it be considered a success. Whoosh! Lu Ming rushed out of the cave with full force. Come on! Lu Ming's eyes were bright as he stared at the sky. Whoosh! Dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky. These dark clouds seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Hiss! Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the dark clouds. Countless bolts of lightning swam in the dark clouds like silver snakes. A powerful pressure spread down, and the world was filled with an oppressive aura. It made people feel as if a great disaster was about to befall them. Rumble. In the sky, more and more dark clouds gathered, covering an area of 100 miles. The range is so big? Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Previously, Lu Ming had seen no less than 10 people transcending their heavenly tribulations. Their emperor's tribulations were usually covered by dark clouds, and the bigger ones were about 10 miles. However, Lu Ming's tribulation covered an area of 100 miles, and it was still increasing. What's going on? Someone is about to become an emperor and is about to transcend the tribulation. But what's with these tribulation clouds? So big? It's actually more than 100 miles. Who's transcending the tribulation? Is it an innate spiritual body? The aura of Lu Ming's tribulation cloud was too shocking. It covered an area of more than 100 miles, but the pressure spread out for 100,000 miles. Many people sensed it. They were incredibly shocked and flew over. Maybe it's really an innate spiritual body, but why is it still increasing? The range of an innate spiritual body's tribulation cloud isn't so terrifying, right? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.